You're listening to the Heart-Centered Service Podcast.
A podcast to help freelancers create the lifestyle of their dreams while doing work that brings them purpose.
I'm your host, Francesca Mamlin.
And I'm your other host, Krista Aoki. Each week, we'll release new episodes with tips and personal stories for online service-based entrepreneurs.
We hope you enjoy.
Welcome to episode 16 of Heart-Centered Service. In this episode, we are continuing our series diving into money and freelance, and we're talking about balancing those books as a freelancer. When you have that to-do list full of things to do for clients, keeping up with your finances is easy to put on the back burner, but keeping up with your finances is also ridiculously important. When you see how money flows in and out of your business, like by viewing your profit and loss statements, you can make informed decisions about how to readjust where your time and your money is going. So today we are so excited to be Certified Elite Quickbooks ProAdvisor and the owner of Magnolia Solutions, a remote bookkeeping firm, Amanda Altman. Amanda loves helping clients tackle their bookkeeping headaches because it all just makes sense to her. And we can't wait to pick her brain about things bookkeeping. And as a word of caution, this isn't financial advice. While we hope this episode will help guide you towards making informed decisions, we always recommend talking to trained professionals about your unique situation. And with that being said, let's dive in. Amanda, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda, and I'm a virtual accountant and consultant, and I offer a variety of bookkeeping and tax services. And I help mostly service-based entrepreneurs, and I help them understand their numbers and increase their profitability so we can grow together and make sense of your numbers.
I love how you use sense, like, you guys probably can't tell because it's a podcast, but sense with a C. Like,
yes.
It's a pun.
It's my little nerd.
Love it.
Funny.
Why did you choose the path of bookkeeping? And why is bookkeeping so important for freelancers? That's probably an obvious question, but
right.
You can humor us.
It's definitely very, very important. A lot of people, starting out, it's the last thing on their to-do list. They only focus it, once a year during tax time. But for me, like starting, 14 years ago or so, I feel so old now, working in high school and college, I noticed, all these businesses didn't really know how to run their books correctly, or it was just so unorganized, papers everywhere. They were behind on payments to vendors and taxes, and I saw how frustrating it was. And I worked in all these different aspects, and over time, I'm like, wow, that was just one thing that they across the board needed help with. And just I've always been good with numbers and being on the computer. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I kind of just said, I really feel bad for them and I want to help them. And I went to work at a CPA firm, and that's where I started and learned like all these just different ways to help and increase numbers and cut expenses. So I decided to go down that route. And they're all different industries and stuff, but for me, freelancer, service-based entrepreneurs, that's my niche, and that's I realize that's where I can help you the most.
Yeah, awesome. And what do you think the benefit of tracking your finances early on is? What would you say to someone who is, I guess, just getting started with freelancing and they feel like their financial situation is just everywhere and scattered and they don't know how to make sense of it?
So from keeping track from day one, if you can, is important. And if it's something just, taking a picture of receipts that, you may commingle in the beginning because you don't have a business account. If you are just using your personal funds, so you can take that to have a paper trail. If there's a way, in your area, there's a lot of DIY bookkeeping courses that people may offer that you can kind of go to a local community college, if that's something, then you can just take a day. But being on top of them as much as possible, protects you from being late in taxes, paying too much or even too little, and if you don't review your numbers and do your bookkeeping from the beginning, how do you even know you're even profitable? You know, you want to try to start from day one. You're doing your business for a reason. You love what you do, and trying to, you know, prepare for the future if you can. And you can hire an expert if you always, you know, you don't know what you're doing. And like me, I can help you make sense of it and figure out what you have to do to be safe and protected.
Yeah, it's so important because like you just said, you don't know if you're actually profitable unless you're actually looking at your numbers and like actually looking at that information. So for people who are just starting their businesses and they know that it's really important to be mindful and knowledgeable about what's going on with their finances, what options do they have? Because I remember when I was first starting out, I barely knew how to organize my personal finances, let alone my business finances. So like what's the difference between a bookkeeper and an accountant? Like, what if you aren't in a place yet where you could hire one of those? Like, what are some things you could do there? Like, what advice would you give to somebody who's like just starting out and they're like, ugh?
Sure thing, right? Yeah, you don't know where to look. You know, sometimes it might just be as simple as working with an accountant or CPA technically once a year, you know, in the beginning, and you just file your taxes once a year with them. And the difference between like a bookkeeper and accountant, that's a lot of people think as a CPA. A CPA, you know, they're licensed in their state to work on and file your income taxes every year. And then you also have some people are an enrolled agent, which is another popular certification where we actually license in all 50 states by the IRS. And so then you have in certain states too, you know, you can call yourself an accountant, but if you're not designated with that title, it can get a little tricky. But overall, like I call myself an accountant, but I don't offer like income tax services. So I'm not a CPA, but I do offer a variety of accounting services, which is, you know, payroll, sales tax. We do a variety of like deep down things, accounts receivable, if you want to really project cash flow and do fancy reports and, you know, do things for investors, stuff like that. And but usually, you know, even if you start with a spreadsheet, that's fine. You don't need to have pay money for a software that you don't need. If you just have a couple of transactions a month, you know, you don't need something crazy. There are also programs online that, you know, QuickBooks, for me is my favorite. I recommend it number one, but, you know, it does have a monthly fee. And there are also programs like Wave and FreshBooks that are free, but they're very limited to what you can, you know, do with it. It just all depends on what you need for your business.
Yeah, I'm like 2 years into this and I still use a spreadsheet because I'm just I get so daunted and overwhelmed with any of the softwares, especially when it comes to like choosing one. The spreadsheet's been working for me.
I've seen a really popular one that a lot of craft people or like online business is Paper and Spark. Paper, I think I'm saying that correctly.
Ooh, never heard of it.
I follow her on Instagram. She's great. She has all these different spreadsheets that you can buy and add-ons for your, like if you're Amazon or Etsy kind of business, and they make it really easy to understand your numbers and just type in your software fees and all that each month. And that's
Oh, that's so cool.
like a one-time. I believe it's just a one-time fee. You buy the software and then you can just use that. You know, so if you're make a habit of just keeping up with that, that's great, you know, alone too. And you have your numbers to then send off to your CPA at the end of the year.
Oh, that's awesome. So it sounds like there's a lot of options to keep track of the books, and kind of what you're basically doing, at least in the beginning, is that you are finding some way to keep track of your numbers, and then you're sending that information off to somebody who can help you file your taxes. Am I kind of right? That's kind of the bare minimum of what you're doing as a business owner?
Spot on.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so a lot of our listeners, again, are really just starting out with their business. That's what I've been observing with comments and messages they get on Instagram and in the group and stuff. So like, what are some of the first steps that you take towards getting your finances organized? Like beyond that, like, how do you start to calculate like what you should be, paying yourself and what you should be like putting aside for taxes? Like, what are some of the steps that you take there?
So, depending on, your tax rate, that's a really hard question to answer for everyone. Always wants to know, how much do I need to save? How much, do I need to pay myself? And that really depends on, if you're married or if you're single, and if you have a lot of different incomes, if you're like investments and real estate stuff. But overall, if you are a small business and it's just you, they kind of say like 28% is an average amount to save for, because it covers your self-employment tax for what you pay as a business owner, but then you also have like a federal income tax that you have to pay, which is another separate fee, but it gets combined when you file your taxes. It's recommended that, the first year when you're going to save as much as you can for taxes, like you pay yourself, but you're actually taxed on the bottom line of what, after all your income comes in and all your expenses are paid out for that year. At the end of the day, at the end of the report, you'll get your bottom line, and that's what you're actually taxed on. So if you actually make $100,000, but at the end of the year, after you pay contractors, gas, your software and all your stuff, you might have only actually made $20,000 because you had $80,000 in expenses. That $20,000 is what you're actually taxed on. And that's the number where you would work with your accountant or CPA to figure out, okay, of that 20,000, how much do I actually owe to the IRS? So that's the first step. I actually, is working with an accountant the first year and getting just organized and knowing like, okay, should I have to pay estimated tax payments as well? Because that's another thing people have heard about, but they don't know what it is. And that's, you pay quarterly taxes instead of once a year, because what happens is you make some money, you're making money, but then you come to file your taxes and you're like, oh crap, I owe a big chunk of change and I don't have that, right now to pay. So what you can do is actually your accountant will give you that actual number to pay, but you can break that into 4 different payments throughout the year. So it's easier on cash flow for you, and you're prepared. Okay, on certain dates of the year, and it's the same exact every year. And I recommend it for a lot of just small, one-man shows that you don't have a lot going on, that definitely pay them, because you're not on payroll, you don't have a W-2, you're not getting a paycheck, so you have to cover your butt, and it's good to do that quarterly.
Yeah, definitely. So like in general, setting aside maybe 28% depending on your situation for taxes, and then paying those quarterly taxes 4 times per year to just prepare yourself and not be surprised by the bill from the IRS come tax time.
Exactly. Another thing you can also do, is as you grow, and if you are meeting clients in person, depending on business, if you're not all online, you can use Dropbox, a program to take pictures of your phone with your receipts, or QuickBooks even has ways you can attach receipts into it, so everything is there. There's a paper trail. If you ever got audited, oh, that's what that's for. I don't have to go research or figure it out. And also, if you can, down the road, as you grow too, having a bookkeeper or an accountant, for sometimes like a bookkeeper is more feasible. The rates are a little bit lower than what a CPA will charge. So that's another option too, just getting that. And like, that's what I do. So I'll help my clients with everything but your income taxes. I can't do that. I'm certified, but I'm here to do everything else with you guys throughout the year,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I work with Amanda, and I really love I really love how I can just let like not think about that area of my business, or like, and then every few months you send me an email like, oh hey, this is your estimated tax payment and this is how you submit it. So for all of my quarterly payments, it's just super simple. Like all I'm doing is uploading my receipts, and I track my bookkeeping through QuickBooks. So my books are pretty much connected to all of my accounts like PayPal, checkings, credit card, and I don't have to give that area very much thought, which is really great during busy seasons of my life.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be able to help you, and I love working with you. You know, you're real fun and easy to work with, and that's what it is. You don't have to worry about it. You have your business for a reason, so you could focus on it, and having just someone, it's not like we're there every day or every second, but hey, just you got to pay your taxes next month, or hey, just so you lost a lot of money last quarter, and you may be paying fees for software that you don't know, or oh, I haven't used ClickFunnels or something in 6 months, let me actually use it or cancel it.
Yeah, and that's really important too, as you're managing your finances, to kind of do like regular assessments of what you're spending your money on. And like, like I realized that I haven't been using a software to its full extent, and so now it's on the chopping block. Like if I don't use it by the time renewal comes, I'm not going to pay for it again.
And then, a couple dollars a month doesn't sound bad. You're like, oh, I don't feel like going on and canceling or calling them, but at the end of the year, that times 12, that's a couple hundred, or almost, depending on how much, a good chunk of money that you could have paid yourself, or, reinvested in the business.
Definitely. Yeah.
So many freelancers, I'm sure, are like draining money out of their account just because they're not paying attention to that part of it. It's cool. It's cool that bookkeepers are here, because then you can like have somebody watching your finances for you.
I try and tell them, if you're eating out too much, or hey, if there's ways to, for like Krista, she travels around the world, so it's hard for you compared to someone who has a physical like office location to get certain deductions. But because you're the way you're at, located, you're able to still get different types of write-offs. So
yeah, like for co-working spaces, when I'm working at a co-working space. But what other tax deductions do you see that are common for freelancers and solopreneurs to claim?
So the number one for freelancers are software costs. That is obviously, you can't run your business without your website or your CRM or email or whatever. And so that's number one. So any type of software, no matter what it is for your business, is deductible. Utilities are another one. If you're at home, your cell phone and your internet, you need that to get online and talk to customers, email them, for a lot of people, that if you are meeting your clients for lunch, or you're going to a conference, an event, or whatever, you can deduct your gas and mileage. And I like this app called Mile IQ, and it's free to download, and you can keep track of, you just turn it on and off when you're driving, and it keeps track of all your business mileage, and you can pull a report from it at the end of the year, and it tells you how many are business, how much is personal, and you use that little number when you file your taxes, so what's my mileage deduction. If you're a photographer is a popular one that travels a lot, and they get a lot of mileage deduction. If you guys use Stripe and Square, those are payment processors. So they actually, they take a little fee out of every little deposit you get. So when you are charging your customer for your newest Instagram marketing course for $500, you're actually only getting, $480 something, say. That little difference are considered bank fees. So what I do is, like, I help my clients, I will say, you actually brought in $500 income, but at the end of the day, you only got, 15 of that was bank fees. So, that make sure you keep track of all your bank fees. So if you're keeping track of on your own bookkeeping, enter a line in there. How much a month. You can run a report in Square and Stripe and export a little CSV that makes it easier, and it tells you the bottom line how much a month or the year even. Vehicle expenses actually, for your car registration fees. So that little yellow tag, little tag, depending on your state you're in. In Florida, I'm in Florida, so it's yellow. Is deductible. Any maintenance, like if you need repairs, this is only for mainly business owners who use their car for business purposes. Not, you can't have all online and use your personal car, like drive around town and say, oh yeah. But also, donations are a big one that people forget. Charitable contributions, like, hey, you're helping your community and you're bringing down what you owe on your taxes too. And the last one that's, is a little tricky and complicated, but everyone is always, wanting about is the home office deduction. And that's actually deduction, they're like, people think, oh, do I have to keep track of that during the year, or how does that work, and that's something that is calculated when you file your taxes once a year. And that was something your CPA or accountant will help you with, that depending on, how big your office is and how much you pay overall in your utilities and your like maybe rent or something, you can calculate a percentage to say, $1,500 of this brings it down. And so that's usually, those are the top deductions for freelancers and entrepreneurs.
There's so many. We'll make a list in the show notes so that you guys can reference it later if you want. And also a list of all the softwares that you've plugged. Like, there's just so much stuff that that you just dropped there.
I'll send them to you too. I have a bunch you can link in.
Awesome. I love that all the different tax deductions that you listed. Yeah, like there are some things that people wouldn't even expect. For example, their home office and their cell phone bill or that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like, those are all things that are very useful in your business. And it's
I know the last one I forgot to mention was, for years entertainment was deductible. So you could go take out your buddies, people go to the golf course or go to a movie or game or whatever, and you could deduct that. But as of last year, it's no longer, so you have to break that down separately now, or
darn,
not even do it anymore.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting too to note. Yeah. But it's also really good to know that you can take your clients out for lunch and claim that as a deductible.
Yeah.
And it helps build that relationship via between yourself and your clients. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how about later down the road, what would you recommend are other ways to keep your business finances organized?
So as you grow, I like to prepare some, workflows and stuff as you can, as you grow. You don't want to, as you grow and you bring on someone, if whether it's a virtual assistant or they're great to help, work out workflows for you and find ways to write down all your tasks for programs and logins and make things that anybody that for a task that needs to be done, anyone can follow it. And that's a way to you do that for your bookkeeping. So if you are, at the end of the day, you grow bookkeeping, you're not going to be doing your bookkeeping, you're either going to have someone working for you in office doing it, or you have, you outsource it. And that's something you work together to, like I use some programs for cash flow, so you can project down the road, like, okay, 6 months from now, a year from now, how much more do I need to make to do this, so getting as you grow, you have more money, to pay for those types of services. But also there's a popular method that online for entrepreneurs called Profit First. And I've read the book. I'm not certified in it or anything, but I really believe in like just overall you can go to the website on Amazon, order the book. It's a great book for people to research, and you are able to set a way that every month you pay yourself. You have an account for your operating expenses, you have an account for your taxes and your profits. So it's a lot of transferring back and forth, but depending on what type of business you're in, you're able to, you have that money already good to go for tax time. And there's a percentage, like depending on how much your operating expenses are. If you change those little numbers in here, you have a spreadsheet, and that's a great way that you can do it yourself. A lot of business owners, I'll just help them one time and they're good to go, and they do it all themselves. Whether you do it each deposit or each month, it's a really great way to save.
Yeah, I really like that principle of paying yourself first. And the idea behind Profit First is that it's so easy to overlook. For example, with myself, I basically didn't pay myself from profits for my blog for the first year. I just stashed it away to the side. But Profit First encourages you to, set that percentage, I believe, of your income to first pay yourself and then think about your monthly expenses.
Exactly.
And so, that's a really great principle for people to start practicing.
Yeah, the author, he believed, business owners were paid the last or not paid at all. And like you said, you saved all your money because you were scared you didn't want to touch it, or if you're going to owe money for the IRS or whatever. That it's a really great, way for definitely like single member business owners to incorporate in their accounting.
So true. Yeah, I feel like I know so many business owners that were like afraid to pay themselves, or if they did, it was like too little or too much. So it's good to have a framework when it comes to that. Yeah, because when you have a job, they tell you what your salary is, but you have to figure it out yourself.
For you. And they don't teach you that stuff in high school of this is how you pay or even write a check. A lot of people even days don't even know how to write a check, which is fine. I don't even have checks anymore, but just basic of accounting terms that it's this jargon no one understands. And I try, make it simple for them to understand. And instead of just going, what does this mean? What is that? And it makes it more frustrating for you guys.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn when it comes to, it's like a really different way of managing your finances, because you're not just managing your personal finances anymore. You're looking at software costs or conferences or networking meetings, and you're making decisions about, okay, where do I want to put my money, how much myself. There are so many different questions that you're asking yourself versus oh, I'm getting my paycheck, the taxes are already deducted taxes are already deducted by my employer, and how am I going to spend this money for myself? You're really thinking about every month, oh, okay, there's this chunk of change that I have, how can I use this to kind of grow, how can I grow my business with this portion of money? It's definitely a different way of thinking.
Right, because it's very important, like I said, doing it from the beginning, at least, whether you look at it once every quarter or once every 4 to 6 months, you try and do that, that you're profitable, because there's these two terms, revenue and profit. People, it's thrown around here and there, but there is a difference, at the people are saying, I made 6 figures in 100 days, from doing this new service or whatever, but really that's not actually what they made. That's just their revenue, it's called. That's what revenue is what you're bringing in at the moment. It's actually deposited in your account, per se. Profit is after all your expenses are paid, because you still have to pay contractors and software fees and bank fees and all this stuff, that at the end of the day, you might have brought in 100,000, but you might have nothing left over. And that's where, it can be confusing for people, like, to say, I made this much, but you really
Yeah, and when you're like setting revenue goals with your business, it's really important to remember that, because you can sit there and be like, yeah, I want to bring in like $4,000 this month. But if you want to bring in $4,000 like into your bank account this month, that means that you're going to have to like earn more than that for your business so that you
Right.
can actually like.
And if you're not, keeping track on a spreadsheet or a software, a lot of people just go by the daily bank account balance. So instead of, you're not using a software or a spreadsheet, to keep track of your accounting, a lot of people may just go by their bank account balance. They check it every day and they're like, okay, this is how much I have to spend. And they don't realize you forget about payments coming up if you're on auto pay for certain things, or you have to pay someone by a certain date, that if you don't have enough coming in to pay them to go out, it can get really hard to keep your business afloat.
Yeah, definitely. So this emphasizes the importance of keeping track of your spending and really anticipating those costs in the future to kind of try to balance your budget every month. But yeah, with that being said, I think we've covered everything that we wanted to. So thanks so much, Amanda, for coming onto the show. Can you let everyone know how to connect with you?
Sure thing. I've loved being on and talking more, how bookkeeping for freelancers is very important, especially from day one. And you can go to my website, www.magnolia, like the flower, virtual.com, and you can email or schedule a free consultation there if you ever just have some quick questions and, find out more about my accounting services.
Cool. Yeah, we'll have those linked in the show notes. And thank you again so much for taking the time to be on this podcast. This is such important information. And there's way too many people out there who don't know about all of this bookkeeping and financial stuff. So we appreciate you coming on here and sharing everything you know.
Of course, I've had a great time, and it's always best to speak to an accountant or CPA for your own personal situation to get the best deductions and pay less in taxes, because a lot of people end up overpaying, and it's important to pay as little as you can legally.
Yeah, that's probably the most important thing that we can leave you with. So everyone have a really wonderful week. Come check in with our community at heartcenteredservice.co. Connect with us on Instagram. Let us know what you think of this episode. If you have any other things you want us to talk about, money-wise or otherwise. And yeah, we will be back in here next week. Bye, everyone.
Aloha.